Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast by Closers.io where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Karen Vadney, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind successful startups, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future expansion. Today, we're excited to have Bob Britz, the founder of CareerCOACH Services, joining us. He is an expert in human behavior and motivation and a results-focused entrepreneur. He uses a unique approach for helping career seekers in entry-level, middle, and advanced phases of their careers. Bob will be sharing more about his founding story and giving us a glimpse into his plans for future growth. So let's jump right in, Bob. Welcome to Founders Future.
Thank you, Karen. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm excited to share a bit about our company as we went through the growing pains into where we are today.
Absolutely. We are so excited to have you on. And so, Bob, I like to take us back to the beginning, where you started. What specific problem or gap in the job market inspired you to start CareerCOACH Services?
If I want to be totally honest, it goes back to when I was 10 years old in fourth grade, and we had Cub Scouts, and we had to go door to door and sell candy bars. And I thought about it, and I asked, I said, well, how much do we make per candy bar? And it was like 15 cents. And I thought to myself, there's got to be a better way to make the money for this. I invented a small business selling flowers essentially to the neighbors up in the wealthy areas of our neighborhood. And our goal was about $45 in revenue for the troop from the sales. And I walked in with $260. And it took me less time to do that than it did for them to sell candy bars door to door. So I realized that businesses needed other methodologies to succeed. What the tried and true typically looks like is not necessarily the tried and true that works. And so when I went into the career coaching practice, I had been working for 25 years in four different careers, but the problems were still the same. People didn't have a good way of getting to the job through the system, whether it was mailing your resumes in, those got lost, whether you were faxing them in at some point, those got lost. But people just weren't seeing the resumes and they weren't making decisions. So there had to be a better way to do this. So in 2006, I transitioned from technology into my career coaching practice. And at that time, we designed a process that started off with some of the behavioral things. What would you be good at? How would you change jobs? Things like that. But it very quickly became obvious that people needed to have a resume. They had to get involved with this thing called LinkedIn and make that work for them. And how do I do that? And everything came down to a process. All of our processes all connect together from here's what I think I want to do to here's the toolkits that I need to make it happen, all the way through to the series of influence networking, which gets you a job in a company within 5 to 9 weeks without having to go through the online submissions, the recruiters, the HR people to get to that particular place. Probably a key pivot for us was when I was working in around 2016 or so. I'd be getting clients in Europe, Greece, London, Dubai, and the time zones were killing me. I couldn't do the US time zones Pacific, and then the London time zones 8 hours away. So we began bringing on coaches, and brought on coaches and hired them, and basically licensed them a practice to work with our processes to make them successful as well.
Incredible. So, starting as an entrepreneur at basically the age of 10 and moving through everything to where you're at today. So, let's fast forward a little bit for our listeners. Can you walk us through some of the nuts and bolts of the career coaching services and how you're generating revenue today? What is that core offering or structure for the coaching programs and even the pricing model?
Sure. The pricing model is always changing as time goes on because people's needs change and we add more things to the programs. But essentially, the way that the program works in terms of the functioning is that people have three different sets of needs. They either know exactly what they want to do going forward, so we help them advance their career, or they're in transition. They've been part of the government layoffs, let's say, or the tech layoffs, or the enterprise layoffs, or the real estate layoffs, or the finance layoffs. So everyone's getting laid off, right? And they want to go back and retool and do something different. So there's a real whole process to that piece of it that avoids risk, but also gets them propelling forward. And for the folks who want to start there and do all of it, then we have the whole program that they can invest in. And it takes a couple months to do that, but it's been really successful in the way that we've done that. Now, the sales and marketing aspects, as you can imagine, for any company, that's the big challenge. right? You can have the best widgets in the world. If no one's seeing them and no one's buying them, you're not in business any longer. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah. And so I teach a sales and development training program that I've been teaching now for consultative sales for probably 25 years. And we teach it, it is a product-based sales because we do have products, but it's always a consultative language and the working with the client that we teach so successfully. And that's one of the things that we teach in our practice that no other certification program or coaching program out there teaches. They leave the sales alone completely. Sales without marketing, again, is also a black hole, right? You have to have inbound marketing to get to the sales most of the time. And being a B2C businesses have a particularly difficult time. For example, if you go to LinkedIn and try to figure out, does Karen have a need for a job? I have no idea if you have a need for a job because you haven't told me you need to have a need for a job.
Right.
I'd be pushing that noodle uphill for months trying to find the people, the few and far between that actually need the job, right? So we have a B2C marketing platform that we use, and we also have a B2B marketing platform that we use. Our B2C platform delivers roughly between 650 and 700 leads per month per coach, which means our coaches end up with about 12 to 13 new clients a month, which is substantial for income to generate. But
Mhm.
to have those things work properly is great. When they fail, and they do, and people like LinkedIn will change their marketing piece or someone else will change their marketing piece, you can find yourself in a real hole. And so we've developed the business to business side, which does help people who have been laid off because of the Doge government program, or the people in technology who are still searching for jobs for 2 years to get past that and get into the spaces they need to be heard and seen, and then, of course, eventually hired. So we've
Mhm.
branched out our marketing to cover two different areas. We're adding two more areas, which will be online sales of services, online sales of products, educational pieces, things like that. We're just ramping into that piece now. So really the biggest challenge is always cash flow. It's always cash flow. Any business will tell you that. But the bottlenecks tend to be people's perceptions of what the value is of what you're offering. And you can have the best offering in the world. And if the client doesn't understand it or doesn't appreciate it or doesn't see the value in it, they're not going to move forward with you. And that could be a coach coming on our table with us, or it could be a client. Either way.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so you're using a lot of different tools and platforms when it comes to that lead generation. What do you feel has been most effective for you guys with lead generation?
It's really having a consistent flow, having a
Mhm.
process that delivers a consistent flow. We've had over 32,000 leads now in the last 5 months. I'm not complaining about leads. I'm only complaining about closure. So
Right.
that's kind of how it fits.
And when you say closure, what exactly do you mean? Just for our listeners to fully
Okay.
understand.
That means the client signs up for the repeat session, pays the invoice, provides the documents. We're ready to go. It's very straightforward. Don't spend a lot of time bouncing back and forth with documents and timing and what do you think? And either we're starting or we're not starting. It's pretty
Right.
clear.
Okay. And so that right now, from my understanding, from what you've said, is the biggest bottleneck right now is getting to that closure so that people understand, so that they see the value of what you're providing.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And have you done anything with this to try to relieve that challenge? Like any results that you've gotten from trying to fix that area?
Yeah, there's a couple. There's really two areas I'm talking about here. One are our clients who are coming to work with us, and the others are our coaches who we're attracting to come work with us. Kind of like the sales model that your CEO was talking about. You've got to have the people. And we've done some things with the onboarding for the coaches to make it more attractive to them financially. We perceive that there's a financial barrier that they don't want to go beyond. Had to work with that to make it more effective. On the client side, some of the barriers and things that we deal with is that in the marketplace right now, there are people out there offering AI resumes, for example. Every time I go to check out, and we check out everyone that we see, almost every time it's not really AI, it's a lookup table, an old lookup table model that you say this, it says that. It's not even AI, and they're calling it AI.
Oh,
And then there are people out there writing AI resumes, which are completely unusable because it reads like an AI wrote it. Too many words, too many commas, too many extensions. It's just obvious it's not a person's resume. And then they're out there with a resume they can't even talk to. They can't even talk in the interview about it because they didn't write it. And so we write our resumes with our clients live. We write our LinkedIn's with them live. We write them cover letters live. We design their networking program live. So they're always engaged in asking all the questions they have to ask to be successful in the process. And you were going to talk about pricing. There are people out there that do offboarding for companies. They'll come in and help the people transition either with a resume, LinkedIn, or cover letter, or whatever else. And I finally got to the pricing of one of the companies. And because I've been looking for about a year, no one could tell me how much they were charging. They keep it secret. But this particular company charges $10,000 for an employee to leave. And they spent 8 hours with that employee in one day doing all the things I talked about. So they come out of the bottom of that completely glazed over, not solid in what they know, and they don't have much follow up with these people.
Mm-hmm.
Charge less than half of that and give them twice the service. And they walk away with full knowledge, full success. Our clients, 100% of them have found jobs using our networking product. 100%.
Wow.
There's probably some that have never come back and said I failed. I'm going to give them that there's a few of those. But our processes work so well because they're behavior driven. You write a resume so a human can read it. ATS has to pass it, but that human being at 4 o'clock at 40 years old with no reading glasses yet, because they can't admit they need to have the readers, and they're trying to read that 70th resume for the day, it's got to be clean, clear, and obvious. You can't give them a bunch of tables and bars and graphs and cutesy little buttons and things. They don't
Right.
want to see any of that stuff. They're too bored. They just want out.
Yeah, that makes sense. Bob, I want to backtrack just a little bit. Our audience has clarity on the step-by-step process as to what it looks like when somebody comes in and wants to work with you. So let's say I'm coming in, I need help finding a job. Tell me what that initial contact to closing looks like.
Sure. So basically, we initiate the meeting by setting up a Zoom. That's the first indicator that they have interest. Then they join us on the call. They've already given us the resume, and we've gone through the resume. We have a series of about 25 questions that we ask everybody. Everything from what positions are you going for? Do you want to be in corporate? Do you want to be in military? You want to be in government? Down to the wages you earn. How old are you? How many kids do you have? Are you married? Are you single? Is someone else providing money in your house? All these are risk factors that most resume writers never ask. I
Mhm.
want to change careers. So that's great. You're making 150 now, but the new career makes 75. How are you going to reconcile that? So we are always cutting off these risk areas for our clients, showing them where their risk is. So when they make those decisions, they're solid. And that's pretty much what that first call is about, determining, do you need to start off with your assessments or do you need to start off with your resume? Or are you ready to go and you want to start off trying to find a job already? And so it's a very consultative process to get to the point where this is what seems to make the most sense for you, and here's the cost associated with it.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. I want to get into the vision and growth of where we're going here. And so I know I saw that you have a goal to establish a presence in all 50 states.
Mhm.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but what are your top priorities for growing career coach services, say over the next 6 to 12 months?
That's great. I think the main things that we're looking at in the next 6 to 12 months are revolve around new types of marketing,
Mhm.
bringing in, certainly getting the web presence with the landing pages and the ability to purchase things directly will help us. There's a large market that we have that just can't afford or don't think they can afford to come work with a coach, but they can spend $79 for a really good class on how to write a resume.
Right.
So we're going to be launching a lot of that stuff going forward. And then the other big area is the offboarding, because that is going to be a stronger and stronger need out there. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of fakers out there trying to gather that business right now. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to do it. And they're polluting the market with people that people are going to say, oh, career coaches aren't that great. No, they are. You just have to get the right one.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
those are the main growth areas we're looking at. The offboarding piece, which we've been doing for years. We've done, McKesson was a big client of ours for a while. Just out of the blue, they found us. Are you kidding me? At that time, we were like a 10-person company. And then they hopped in the front door and we're like, okay, we can do this. And
Amazing.
it was great. So
Yeah.
we've been doing it for a while, but we're just expanding it. We're finding electronic ways to expand these things.
Yeah. That's awesome. I want to know, and I'm sure our listeners do as well, but if you had unlimited resources, what would you implement or change immediately to accelerate career coach services growth?
I think the best way to grow it is through our coaches because our coaches are the face of the company. We are very picky about who we bring on as a coach to our firm. The ethics, the background, everything, the communication skills. So they're a little bit harder to find than you'd think. But if I could accelerate that, I would definitely accelerate that and get my coaches up. We have 30 offices now, and I'd like to be at 50 by the end of the year.
Amazing. That is amazing. Bob, I want to give you some lightning round questions real quick here before we finish up.
Okay.
What is the best piece of advice that you've received about scaling a service-based business like yours?
The best advice about scaling a service-based business. I think it's always the quality of the people. If you don't have the quality people, you don't have a business. And the ones that you hire that are not quality will cause you 90% of your problems.
So true. That is powerful. That is powerful. And being that you've mentored thousands of young entrepreneurs, what advice would you give to founders who are just starting their journey within this industry?
Take all your projections and cut them down by 75%.
You had it, you knew it.
Yeah. Well, it's so many young people look at these types of opportunities. The startup environment 20 years ago is very different than it is today. It's a lot more stable today, even though it's still unstable. It's way more stable than it used to be. But the mindset was, oh, I'll hop into a startup, I'll make all this money, and then I'll go to Europe for 2 years and then kick back and come. No, that doesn't really happen. Not
Hmm.
very often in any house. So I think expectations of anyone under 30 doing this, I think the expectations have to really be thought through. And you absolutely have to have a mentor. You have to have a mentor.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I'm sure our listeners took a lot from that as well. And Bob, that wraps up another inspiring episode of Founders Future. I want to thank you, Bob, for sharing your incredible journey and insights with us today. And
Very well.
to our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can also find more resources and insights at closers.io, where we're dedicated to helping businesses accelerate their sales and marketing efforts through world-class systems and playbooks. Until then, keep climbing, and we'll see you on the next one.